Hello guys and welcome back to the channel. So in this video I feel like we need to speak about the Archimedes engine delay and my honest thoughts about this, and is this a big deal for the stock or not a big deal for the stock. So we just completed Q2, which is probably going to be the most successful Q2 that Rocket Lab has ever done. We're probably going to have a highest ever earnings quarter. Space Systems is rocking at also firing from all engines, not Archimedes engines, but firing from all what's the other engine? I'm having a Joe Biden moment, but yeah, from the other engine, the one that is on Electron. The oh my god, I'm filming this very late. Rutherford, here we go. Okay, it came to me. So we talked about this yesterday on Rocket Lab Weekly, and don't click away, this is not going to be the exact same thing. I studied more about this and I have some more thoughts. So this is actually a failure on my own due diligence on Rocket Lab. So I have to be transparent about this. I just blindly trusted when they said, Neutron is going to come in 2024. I was thinking, okay, there might be a little bit delay, maybe until 2025. But based on a recent interview that Peter Beck did, he said that when he was asked about the 2025 date, he was still like, yeah, it's a rocket program. It should be in 2025. So he didn't say it's definitely happening in 2025. So that made me think, like, what if it's 2026? Like, did I think with that in my thesis? And, how does that change the stock price? And is that like a red flag for the company or not? So Scott actually gave me this idea to start researching how long and how much money did other rockets take, because then you can see if Rocket Lab was way too optimistic with the timeline, or that they're actually doing very, very bad. So I'm going to take you through this. It's going to be a bit nerdy, a bit boring, and then I want to show you how my Rocket Lab valuation model changes and how much of a trouble we are in as Rocket Lab investors. How much do we need to discount if Neutron comes in 2025 or in 2026, and so forth and so forth. So it's going to be a nerdy video, but I think it's going to be worth it for Rocket Lab investors. And just want to quickly thank the 13 channel members that we have who support the channel. So you guys are amazing. We have also 2 Patreons. And so if you're watching this video and you feel you got value out of it, please consider joining the channel membership. So that was a very long intro. Now let's make my face very small. Actually, I'll disappear. Magic trick. So Falcon 1, let's start with that one. So Falcon 1 was developed between 2002 and 2008. So that's 6 years in development for a development cost of 90 million. And by the way, on Rocket Lab Weekly, Matt Farley brought up a fantastic point that this development cost of 90 million, it was just the first rocket. And it was the rocket on the stand flying, right? So it wasn't production facilities, launch pads, and they actually did end up abandoning this rocket really, really quick. So they never built out a factory for it. It was more like a springboard where SpaceX actually learned how to do rockets. So it's very important when it comes back to Rocket Lab. So Falcon 9, this one was developed between 2005 to 2010. This is so far the fastest rocket here, 300 million. This is also comparable to the Neutron, but keep in mind that this is 300 million in 2005 currency. So probably if you adjust it to Bidenomics, it's probably like 600-700 million today. Then we have Starship. Starship was announced in 2012, and the development is still ongoing. So that's 12 years. And we don't know what the development cost is going to land on. It's probably going to be around $10 billion. So that's pretty crazy. Now, let's go to other companies that are more in the recent times. Firefly's Alpha. So this is a rocket that is bigger than the Electron. It can fly 1,000 kilograms. This was developed between 2014 to 2023. So that's 9 years in development. And the development cost was about 100 million. And as far as I understand, also okay, I'm not qualified to speak about this, but I know that they don't have their own launch pad, and the rocket has had a lot of failures and they're scaling up. So probably this includes a little bit of factory, but I cannot really comment on that. Now here's one that doesn't exist anymore, the Astra rocket. So you can see here in November 2021, after 9 years of development, the rocket 3.3 reached orbit for the first time. So I don't have a data about the development cost, but you can see that it was 9 years here. So just to reiterate, so far the fastest on the list was the Falcon 9 with 5 years. And, you know, I would say that the average is, 6, 7, 8 years in rocket development so far. So now here's another one also that is very recent, ULA Vulcan. They began developing the Vulcan in 2014 and launched for the first time on 8th of January 2024. So this is a 10-year development for this rocket. And the cost was a mind-boggling $4.2 billion to develop a Falcon 9 competitor that was $300 million to develop. So it was like almost 15 Falcon 9 launches to develop this, and the end result is a vehicle that flies for between $100 million to $200 million. Pretty crazy if you ask me. So now, a little bit of a home territory. So Rocket Lab Electron, the development was between 2013 to 2018. And by the way, the first flight of Rocket Lab was 2017. And I know that we cannot consider the first flight a success. I'm coming back if the camera wants to work. Hello, guys. But basically, it only failed because the FAA, who was controlling them, like someone forgot to check like a check mark, and then they couldn't see where the rocket is, and then they, per the rules, they had to terminate the rocket. But actually, the first flight was nominal. So that would be a 4-year development phase for Rocket Lab Electron, which would make it the fastest rocket to be developed on all this list, and that's including SpaceX. It's a bit late here. But now it's just matching the Falcon 9's development. And what's also crazy impressive in this number, that it cost $100 million. That's after inflation. So the Falcon 1 was developed in, before 2010. This is 5-7 years after, and it includes, remember what Rocket Lab had to do to make this rocket. They had to build their own launch pad in Mahia. They 3D printed the rockets, so they had their own factory, and it was really like a production line that Peter Beck stresses a lot, that they had the first flight and then the next flights, they came like one after the other, because they didn't just put an MVP on the stand. They actually produced a production concept with a factory, with a launch pad. So keep in mind when you look at that 100 million number, it's very impressive. Now, here is when we come to Rocket Lab Neutron. So the original plan, it was announced in 2021, and they wanted to have it fly in 2024. So that would have been a 3-year development for a bigger rocket than the Electron. That would have been the fastest developed rocket on this whole list. So if the development goes to 2025, it will just be it will be the top first developed with the Falcon 9 and Electron. If it's developed in 2026, so that's when it flies first, it will be in the top tier of rockets, because most of the other rockets, they were even later. If it would be developed in 2027, it would be an average rocket. So keep this really in mind. So I feel that the fact that they were going for the 2024 timeline, it was very audacious, very, very bold. And if I would have done more due diligence, so I'm very transparent, I didn't do this due diligence when I invested into Rocket Lab, I would have probably said that don't count with it, it's probably not going to happen, and there's no way they're going to pull this off. I'm even thinking that if they pull off the 2025, it's a major, major, major achievement. I still give them the benefit of the doubt before I change my, update and everything. If they're going to make it, I want to hear them speak on the earnings call to see what's going on with Archimedes. But again, even 2026, it's a very, very fast development of a rocket and very nicely on budget. And again, keep in mind that the 300 million includes launch pads, factories. I think Adam Spice or Peter Beck said that only 20% of this cost is the actual rocket, and the rest is like the infrastructure around the rocket. So it's a very, very cheaply developed rocket. So now that we're done with this very nerdy stuff, let's see how my valuation model changes. By the way, this is the one that you get access to if you join Patreon or you support the channel as a channel member. Link in the description box below, and you can do your own assumptions. So this is how the table was before I made the changes. And little housekeeping rules. So I have the years on the top, the rocket launch segment, the space segment, the space infrastructure. And I want to point out that you see the space infrastructure is blank. So that means that that's a call option on the company. I'm not thinking with it. There's too little data and I don't want to model it into the company. Even though I probably should, because based on the research that I have done, I'm pretty sure that Rocket Lab is going to have multiple constellations launching, and the first ones are going to be paid for by the customers, which means that it will be highly profitable and yada, yada, yada. So it's a very important disclaimer that I'm really not being, even though my name is Vince is bullish, this is a very reasonable calculation. Then here is the total revenue. Here you can see their year-over-year growth. And I count with the number of shares outstanding and 3% dilution per year. And you can change anything. If you think that I'm too low and too optimistic, you can change this to 5%. It readjusts the numbers as you saw, and then it readjusts the share price that you can expect. And then if you click here, you can see how many electron launches. So here you can see 22 times 7.5 million. That's the price of Neutron. That's how many launches I'm thinking with. And then next year, you can see that I was thinking with 2 Neutron launches in 2025. So you can see that already in my earlier version, I was not thinking with that they would launch in 2024. I was thinking the launch will be a little bit delayed, and then they still managed to launch one more in 2025. And the whole valuation is based on a picture that is in 2030, where I assume that they are profitable and they have an operating margin of 15%. That's a GAAP margin, which would net them a 300 million profit. And because they're growing very, very nicely, you see this is their growth. I believe that they are worthy of a 40 PE multiple, and this would put them at a $12 billion market cap and a share price of 19.56. Now, if you want market matching returns, then the fair value of the stock price is $10.70. So I never go for market returns, so I would want the stock to be lower than this. The current price is $4.80, and this implies a 22.22% compound annual return all the way to 2030, which is very, very, very nice. So this was how it was before I really started looking at this Neutron thing. And now let's change the table so that we think with a more substantial Neutron delay. So instead of 2 launches in 2025, I put 1 launch in 2025, and I still put 3 in 2026. So this is, not the worst case scenario. This is like a middle case scenario. And I have to tell you why. It's because Peter Beck is so clear on that they're focused on producing this rocket and making it production ready. So I think that even if the hot fire test is late, even if the first flight is late, they're doing it as a learning. So it doesn't mean that when they're going to fly, they are going to need like 2 years to fly again, because, you know, the factories are ready, the engines are being 3D printed, you know, like everything is ready. So they just need to tweak a little bit, use what they have learned, and then fly again. So in this middle version, even though they, you know, they don't launch 2 Neutrons in 2025, they launch 1, but in 2026, I think they can still easily scale the same way as they did before. And this way, it doesn't really, it doesn't affect, actually, I was surprised on this, but it doesn't affect their valuation in 2030, that they were 1 year delayed with the engine. But I did another one. What if Neutron is delayed all the way to 2026? So this one is a bit more interesting. So you see 0 launches in 2025, 1 launch in 2026. And again, because of how production focused Peter Beck is, I kept the ramping up to 3, and then 5, and then 8, and then 11 launches in 2030. And this put the stock price down to 16.92. Again, if you want market matching returns, the fair value for Rocket Lab is 9.26. Again, I would not buy it for that because I'm looking for bargains, but the current stock price is still giving you a compound return of 19.72%, which is just slightly different from the 22% return that we calculated out in the previous calculation. It's like 3 percentage points different. It's really not a big deal. And this just shows you how small a deal this delay is when you put it into the big picture. So my honest thoughts about the Archimedes delay is that when you look at all these rockets, right, the plan of developing the rocket was very, very optimistic. But the team does have a track record on delivering on rocket developments. And even before Rocket Lab did the Electron, they had other projects with NASA and DARPA, and they did have the reputation of, you know, being able to do very tough projects that nobody can do for like on time and on budget, basically. So I would be very, very surprised if Neutron would be delayed past 2026. If you look at management's track record, it's really nothing to worry about. And as long as they're building out Neutron the way Peter Beck says that they're building out, that there's a lot of focus on production, whatever delay they have now, they're going to be catch it up. They're going to be able to catch it up in the future. So this is my honest opinion. Please let me know in the comments what you thought about it. And if this changed your viewpoint at all about the Archimedes engine and it being delayed. Again, if you want to support the channel, the link is in the description box below. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. And any day, we might get this damn Archimedes hot fire. Any day. Seriously, any day. So just keep that in mind. I'm very excited every morning when I wake up checking X. So see you guys in the next one. Ciao, ciao.